The right-wing sensationalist propaganda machine tabloid media is about to go into overdrive about Jeremy Corbyn. Today's Daily Mail has a double-page spread exposing what it calls Corbyn's bloody secret and promises tomorrow to unmask Corbyn. As usual, this is because the man is left-wing, he's pro-working class people. He wants to reverse most of the things that the Tories have done over the last almost a decade now. But by and large, this particular episode that's coming of Smear will be about Donald Tusk and the EU stating that they want to do business with Corbyn rather than Theresa May. They would rather do negotiations with Corbyn rather than Theresa May. Why? Because Corbyn is, by his very nature, more reasonable, more sensible, more mature. He's not going to come in like Theresa May did 2 years ago, banging his chest, bleating about how great Britain is, how strong and stable his government is, and how the EU have everything to lose and Britain has nothing to lose unless we get everything that we want. He's more likely to be rational about the situation. He realises the power that the EU have compared to the power that Britain have. He realises the pros and cons of what we have and the pros and cons of what they have, and is more likely to negotiate a sensible deal that will not please everyone. I don't think that any deal that can be negotiated will please everyone at this given time. But he will negotiate a deal that serves the best interests of the EU, Britain, and the voters as a whole, I believe. And that's why this particular smear that we're about to see is going to happen. As always, they smear the man because they can't argue with his policies. He wants to make housing affordable. The Tories have allowed private landlords to come in, build houses that are ridiculously expensive, unaffordable. House prices have skyrocketed. The average Joe like me and you cannot afford to buy a house. And yet they will claim this is some sort of achievement that we have record numbers of houses being built. Well, no, not affordable houses you do. They will allow 0-hour contracts, the stripping away of workers' rights. We have Sports Direct women giving birth in the warehouse because she was afraid that if she went on maternity leave or tried to take maternity leave, she would lose her job. Amazon drivers pissing in bottles on the road because they don't want to stop for a toilet in case they miss their deadline. Amazon workers who, if they call in sick, are expected to find someone to work their shift or pay Amazon for the loss of their labour on that day. People like Philip Green, who stripped bare BHS, sold it off for a penny and then fucked off. And then these people are practically held unaccountable. Mike Ashley and Philip Green have been in the Commons a couple of times to explain themselves. I'll grant you that. Nothing's been done. Nothing's actually substantial has been done. They've been given a little slap on the wrist, been told, naughty, naughty boy, don't do it again. In fact, Philip Green, he's now, ironically, turned the tables and he's slamming the government. If you watch what's been happening with Philip Green lately, wow, he's actually flipped it. He's done a Cliff Richard, flipped it on the people that accused him, and he's blaming them, saying that they're the criminals. It's ridiculous. So these people are getting away with it. Corporations, Amazon, Starbucks, I think Vodafone, but I don't want to slander Vodafone if they're not guilty and all that kind of stuff. Vodafone, Starbucks, all these companies, Google, are dodging their taxes, basing themselves in corporate tax havens abroad, overseas. And this is not illegal, but as I say, Jeremy Corbyn wants to close those legal loopholes so that the corporations that operate in the United Kingdom will have to pay their fair share of corporation tax in the United Kingdom. In fact, he says that these companies shouldn't be allowed to operate in the UK if they will not pay their complete corporation tax bill for the UK. People like the Tory supporters will screech, well, where they're going to go someplace else. Well, where are they going to go? Britain has the lowest rate of corporation tax in the entirety of Europe. Where are they going to go? Where can they go that's sustainable, that they can actually operate efficiently and still have business in the UK? They can't go anywhere. Corbyn wants to sort that out. He wants to bring in the living wage. He wants to actually look after the poor, the vulnerable. The last 10 years, we've had homeless people freezing to death on the streets. Elderly people freezing to death in their homes because they can't afford their house bills. Mothers having to choose between heating and feeding their children because prices are so high, wages are stagnating, we've got in-work poverty at an all-time high. And of course, with all this, you get the work for benefits scandal that we saw, where the Tories were making people work in order to get benefits. Hello, if there's a job there, fucking give it to them. They had to work for their benefits. They had people on 0-hour contracts, people with no rights whatsoever in the workplace. They were just told, no work for you tomorrow, don't come in. And then the Tories will claim that there's record numbers of jobs. No, there's not. How many sustainable jobs that pay an actual substantial wage that someone can live on? How many of those have you created, Tory government? How many? I'd love to see those stats. Windrush generation, people who have lived there 30, 40 years, being told that they have to provide 3 pieces of documentation for every single year that they have lived in the UK in order to prove they have the right to live and work in the UK, or they will face deportation to a country many of them have never even been to. At best, they've been there when they were kids. We've had that because the Tories want to pander to the far right and pander to xenophobia and fear of black people and brown people. We've had refugees freezing to death in the sea or drowning in the sea, being washed up because of Tory foreign policy, because they want to arm the Saudis. People who are bombing school kids in Yemen, killing school buses full of 30 children. Tory wants to end that. Corbyn wants to end that. He wants to stop selling guns and weapons to the Saudis and the Israelis who are bombing Palestinians and landlocking them in the fucking open-air prison at Gaza and denying them construction, water, medical aid, anything that they can, because they're cruel, vindictive bastards. And of course they will turn around and say, oh well, Hamas can use that as a weapon. How the fuck do you use water as a weapon, you cunt? How? How the fuck do you deny someone some plasterboard for their house and claim it could be used as a weapon? And of course the argument will be that, oh well, Hamas can seize that and hold it back if people don't convert, people don't join them, people don't join their ranks. How does it make you any better than them then? Because you are denying them it anyway. So you're denying it before Hamas get the opportunity to deny it anyway. That doesn't make you any better than them Israelis. Any better. Fucking Netanyahu. Prick. I'm getting off subject. Corbyn wants to stop all that. Corbyn wants to make sure the rich, super rich, pay their bills. Corbyn wants to make sure the workers in this country, average Joe workers like you or me, have a sustainable wage. He wants to make sure we can afford a house. He wants to make sure people aren't queuing up to use food banks because they cannot afford to eat. In fact, he went on one of these in conversations. I can't remember the name of the guy. Eric Bishop, I think his name is. John Bishop. He went on the show with John Bishop, and John Bishop said to him, "What is your goal? Your one thing that if you ever became Prime Minister, and when you left, if and when you left office, the one thing that if you achieved, you could say you was a successful Prime Minister." And Corbyn said, "Not one person homeless, not one." And that's obviously, some might argue, a utopian dream, but that shows what he wants. He doesn't want to be the Prime Minister that presses the nuclear button. He said he would have to think about pressing the nuclear button. Theresa May said yes, like that, when asked in Commons, would you press the nuclear button? Yes. Who would you rather have? The Prime Minister who would, without hesitation, in a heartbeat, press the nuclear button, detonate half the world, and kill everyone? Or a Prime Minister who would stop for a second and fucking think about the ramifications of pressing that button and bringing the world that one step? There's all that's necessary. That one step into nuclear oblivion. I don't actually think it's a button. I think you have to give a special code word. If it's anything like the US, you would have to give a code word into a phone, and then it would have to go through to someone else, and someone else would have to approve it. But you get the idea. Who would you rather have? And he also said he would hesitate, shoot to kill. And then he did backtrack and say he would give the authority to shoot to kill if there was a terrorist attack on UK soil. But come on, who would you rather have? Someone who would have to wrestle with his conscience, or someone who would without hesitation end life? Because one of those is the definition of a fucking psychopath. And this woman has the media round her finger. The Mail, the Sun, the Express, the Telegraph. These are all rags that she has promised tax breaks to, and tax tax breaks and tax evasion rights on the basis that they smear Corbyn any chance they can get. Because who reads these rags? Working class people, the white van man, the builders, the cab drivers, the people who are at the bottom of the ladder. And who does she want to turn against Corbyn? Those people. Why? Because they are 3/5 of the fucking population. Wake up to what is going on. The media do not care about you. Put the newspapers down. Stop reading them. They're full of shit. Look at The Sun and Hillsborough. Look at all the retractions that the Daily Mail issues almost on a daily basis. Many of them about Corbyn. Of course, the actual articles that they write about Corbyn are double spreads. Entire issues devoted to smearing the man, and the retractions are this tiny on page 27 at the bottom. Put them down. They do not write in your best interests. Murdoch, Rothermere, all these billionaires based in tax havens do not write what you should see. They do not write for your interests. They write for their own interests. So you're too busy angry about Corbyn meeting someone 30 years ago, or you're angry about a refugee in a boat, or you're angry about some Muslim down the road going to mosque. They stoke fear and they stoke hatred, because then if you're angry about Corbyn, if you're angry about the Muslim, if you're angry about the foreigner or the refugee, you're not focusing on them. And that's exactly what they want. Put the newspapers down. Stop reading them. Stop buying them. Go and pick up some books. And I'm not being condescending when I say this. I'm really genuinely trying to not be condescending. I'm not trying to do that at all. Pick up some books. Read. Study left-wing politics. Tony Benn. Chomsky. You can even read books by Owen Jones if you want. He's a bit of a dick, but read it. Study it. Marx. Read what they're all about rather than believing what the media want you to believe about these people. Marx's headstone was recently vandalised. I promise you, I guarantee you, the people who vandalised that headstone have not read Das Kapital and have not read the Communist Manifesto. Now, communism isn't an ideology that I wholeheartedly agree with. I agree with some of its fundamental ideas. I do not agree with it wholeheartedly. But read Tony Benn's policies, because that is the most rebellious thing that you can do. In the words of Akala, the most rebellious thing you can do is get educated. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.